Good morning, everybody. I am Daniel Shue, the Old House Agent. I am a real estate agent at Prestige Homes of the Tri-Cities in Bristol, Tennessee, and I am licensed in Tennessee and Virginia, and I specialize in historic houses. And today we are at a fascinating property. We are in Hamlin County, Tennessee, near the town. It's technically Russellville, Tennessee. We're about 12 minutes from Morristown, and let's see here. I didn't calculate this. Maybe like 30 minutes from Knoxville. So we're not far away from Knoxville. We're a long way from Bristol, though. Um, so we're at a very cool property. I'm excited about this one. This house is not what it seems, and it has much more going for it than you're thinking as you view it behind me. Where we're standing right now in 1785, which is when the original house was built, we were in North Carolina. Tennessee had not formed yet. And the gentleman that built this house, James Roddye, was a signer of the Tennessee Constitution. And so it's just an amazing property. And the history goes even further than that. We have some Native American history on this property. It's 28 acres. We're going to jump in the truck in a few minutes and show you the rest of it. Uh, General Longstreet during the Civil War had an encampment here. There were springs here where people came to visit the property after the Civil War. I'll also read sort of an excerpt from the book that was written about the property by the current owner, and it's amazing. Um, I will put the listing information in the video. We're pretty much good on the price and ready to go, but we're not going to talk about that in the video. It'll be in the video when I upload it, so you'll be able to see that in there. So anyway, let me grab the paper here while Monica's viewing the house there. As with all of these historic properties that I love, and I really, I'll list a house that's in perfect condition, and I'll list a house that's dilapidated. And I kind of really enjoy listings like this where this house is getting ready to get a new life. They've done some work to it. There was a board formed that was saving the property. It's been in the current owner's family for a long time. They reconstructed the chimneys and did some gutting inside to expose the original log house. So we'll get to that. But I love listing and selling these properties and knowing that something big is going to happen here. Um, if Monica and I did not already have a house and we wanted to live in this part of Tennessee, which we don't not want to, we just have connections to Bristol. This a 1785 log house on 28 acres in this amazing territory is incredible. So here's the history as we walk up. I will tell you a little bit about it. Some of this is from the historic marker site, I think from the state of Tennessee. And it said built in 1785 by Colonel James Roddye from North Carolina. Like I told you, this was North Carolina. He was subsequently delegate to the North Carolina Constitutional Convention, magistrate and register of the Jefferson County under territorial government, and a member of the Tennessee First Constitutional Convention. The house was also a tavern on the Kentucky Road, known as the Tavern with the Red Door. And I'll show you just in a minute as we go in where that red door was. Now, in case I get some of this historical information wrong, because it's pretty extensive here. My friend Dakota is coming after a while, and there's going to be a whole separate video, so you want to stay tuned to the page for that, where he's going to go over the history of the property in more detail because he's a pretty good expert on this. I also have with me a book. Now, before I go into any more history, I've got this really cool photo here. So if you notice, I'm layered up because it's 33 out here. It is freezing. So that's the original structure right there. And I think that this door right here is where we're getting ready to enter. So let's see here. We've talked about Roddye. He's in there. Let me just read this to you as we go. So in December of 1863, Major General Lafayette McLaws brooded within the walls of Hayslope. It's from this book. The cozy home of Theophilus Rogan and his wife Louisa where the Confederate general made his headquarters in Russellville, Tennessee, a half-mile away at the Nenny House in downtown Russellville. His commanding officer, General James Longstreet, Lieutenant General James Longstreet, prepared to relieve him of command, blaming him for the failure of the siege of Knoxville. Between them and around the house in the fields of the Rogan farm, weary soldiers bound their wounds and huddled under threadbare blankets. Probably felt a little bit like today. Exhausted from inconclusive campaigns and a growing worry that the war against the United States was doomed to failure, and that failure was coming soon, it was bitterly cold in East Tennessee, never particularly friendly toward the Confederates, and extraordinarily unkind to that brutal winter of 1863-1864. Hayslope was already a storied home in Russellville by the time McLaws and his drained troops settled for the winter. Originally built in 1785 by James Roddye, one of the famed Over-Mountain Men. If you don't know what the Over-Mountain Men were, Google that. It's a very interesting story. Who quick marched to South Carolina 5 years earlier and took just an hour to beat the British in the Battle of Kings Mountain. As one-room log cabin with a loft or second story on the Kentucky Road, and was well known as the Tavern with the Red Door, where travelers could stop for the night and have a hot meal heading on their journey into the wilderness of what was then part of North Carolina. And it goes on to talk about how Roddye was part of the Constitution in Tennessee. And then we've got some older photos of the property. Now, according to my records, or we watch a lot of Magic School Bus at home. According to my research, this structure around the house was built in 1900 with some major modifications around 1929. As you can see, it looks like a large bungalow. It's interesting architecturally, but I think the best idea here is the roof was raised later, so I think the best thing to do is take the roof off and bring the structure back to its original height, restore the log structure, and then go back and add on to it. You know, make this a home, make this a house, 200 and some year old house that you can live in. It's an incredible property. So this was a porch that has been enclosed at one time. And unless Dakota proves me wrong in the next video, this was the door where the red door was. And that pretty much went up the staircase. I'll show you that. Let me put these down. So stepping in here, I think this is the door in the photo I showed you. You've got these really old beams. I'm thinking they're original. The house was altered, from my understanding, around the turn of that century, 1800, 1801. So they may have done some updates. The fireplace, the mantle appears to be original. They reconstructed the chimney using all the original bricks. This ironwork was here. The fire back is original. And unless I find more information, it was likely made on our property at the Beaver Creek Ironworks in Bristol. A lot of things from that era were made on our property and shipped down the Holston to the west. And so it's fascinating going to a lot of these houses and think that, you know, these things were made on what was originally our property. Here are these giant logs. I've been in a lot of log structures in this area, and this is by far the largest logs I have ever seen. I mean, that's like 2 feet. They're huge, absolutely huge. Nice old square nails in them. This chinking has got to be original. You know, there's hair, horsehair, and all kinds of stuff in there. Look at this beautiful hewing. There is some termite damage I'll show you in a few minutes, but they have logs cut to replace them. So this is probably a little easier structure to repair than, say, a brick house, which is what we're dealing with right now. You can just like jack it up, support it, replace the log, put it back together. There's logs under here. Paneling was added later. There's a big beefy one up there. The mantle board, I think, is around the house here somewhere. The flooring has been replaced at some point, probably in 1900 when they built on. But I'll show you in a few minutes, there's a second floor layer where the original floors upstairs are, and they built another floor over it. Here's some more logs. Oh, check this out. This is a hexafoil. It's like a Dutch symbol. James Roddye, we believe, was Irish. So he would have been Catholic. So it could have been, I'm not sure if this was really a thing that Catholics used. It may have been, but he did spend, I think he may have been, I think the book said he may have been born in Pennsylvania, but he was kind of from Pennsylvania, so that would lead me to believe that this was maybe a Pennsylvania Dutch inspiration. Our friend Dakota was saying something about the let's see, what was the word he used? Superstitious Catholics, and I was like, yeah, I'm one of those. So this log right here has some significant termite damage, and we have those to replace that. But these things are absolutely huge. They are huge. This is incredible. These two, actually, before the termites ate on them, they met without any chinking. It was a very tight bond right there. Okay, so there's a step down here, and this room was a frame structure that was added on just a little bit later than the original house. So we just left the original one-room house. And again, these beams carry on over into here, similarly to what was in the other room. Big fireplace. I kind of think this fireplace size makes me think that this was some kind of kitchen. I'll be interested to see what Dakota thinks about that. And then this mantle could be put back here. I don't think this was an original mantle. There's a damper been installed. Again, these chimneys were completely reconstructed to the original specifications using the same bricks. Check out this wide plank paneling over here. It's great period detail. Probably 1800. Somebody decided to try their hand at some faux brick. And then over here, there's a double window, and we're still trying to figure out how the window placement was here originally, with some more removal of all this sheetrock and debris. Some of that stuff would be easier to figure out. But again, this is a different kind of property than just going in and fixing an old house. This house almost needs to be gently deconstructed and put back. But it's not a mansion, so it's not like $1 million project. But you could make a nice big house out of it. So over here is the staircase that goes up. This is where that door was. And I think that this, it was kind of a corkscrew staircase at the bottom. And I think that maybe the original steps are probably under this, and they built this platform atop of those later. So you're like 1900 right here. And then right here is the curved steps, which they're pretty old. That's a pretty thick board. I think there's potential they're original. Another massive log right there. Look at that thing. So Maybe Monica's ring light will pick it up, but if you go into this crack right here, the original 1785 flooring is under there. It's very hard to see. And they just built a floor on top of that. So you could potentially take that flooring up and expose the original floor that hasn't been walked upon in over 100 years. Wish I could explain to you all how cold it is right now. And then more giant logs up here. These have some termite damage too. The owner tells me that she had logs cut to replace what's damaged. So, and I think the wood was the same also. So you should be able to just come in here and have those building materials. She has cedar that was taken out of the house. It's not original, but it was still old. So there are components to this property that you can get with it. The logs come with it anyway. And then over here, this type of beadboard, this wide plank beadboard is what is in our attic. So we know that can date to 1814. And look at this. I love this blue paint. I don't know how far back that goes. Yeah, these windows, if you truly restored the house, these would be taken out, but maybe they could be reused or something. They're really cool. A little sticky. So the original structure, I think this is the line right here where the old roof used to be. So it would have come from here and then gone up. And I guess at the turn of the century, when they converted the house and changed things around, they raised the roof up about 4 feet. And you could leave it, I don't know. There's a lot you could do with the property. It might be interesting to leave it as this giant bungalow structure with a log house inside. Sky's the limit. And here's more of these neat windows. Yeah, it'd be great if you took these out to try to reuse them, maybe as kitchen cabinet doors or something. And the alteration in the house, you know, created these little quirky rooms, which are kind of cool. You get to see the logs in there. Check those out. And that's where so you stay there. And so yeah, this was where the roof began. Right there's the log. There could be rafter marks in it. Here's a mark right here. Right there. Yeah, there they are. And there's one. I have this fear of raccoons because Monica has a biology degree, and that makes you fear a lot of things. And so I was very specific with Dakota to ask him if there were raccoons in the house before I came in. And please don't watch this video and think that the owner has neglected the property. This was a family property, and she has put tons of resources in saving the property and formed a board to save it. She had big plans for the property, but she has decided to move on and let someone else try to restore this place and hopefully make it into a home. So here's another big room here. Again, the roof has been raised. Yeah, I think this almost looks like this could be the original height. Yeah, I have to look at that outside. This was the 1800-ish edition. And they had a fireplace up here, really cool, part of the reconstructed chimney. So you got a fireplace in this bedroom. And this is the floor that was laid over the original floor, so this could come up. Let's see here. Don't fall. Don't you fall. So here we are out on, like, they built this carport thing on later, probably at the turn of the century. It was pretty typical looking. And I guess it had railing on it where they could come out here and enjoy this area. But you get a great view of some of the property. Over there's the marsh area. It goes all the way to the railroad tracks. It's probably about 6 acres right there. A neighbor actually just came over and said that they were going to do something over there to help dry it out a little bit. So I don't know, just a future thought. And then up here on this ridge, I think was where the encampment was. Beautiful wooded area back there. We're going to drive that in a few minutes. Just a gorgeous 28 acres. something scratching. Monica? I'd rather run into a ghost than a raccoon. That window is not working right. There's another little cool cubby back there. Like I said, you might be able to save the house like it is and sort of make it some funky layered property. I would want to restore it. All of this stuff, this may be original wall right here, but I think a lot of this wood was moved around. So like, let's say this was put in here in 1900, it's probably part of the original house that they took down and moved around, recycled materials. We had a lot of that at our house, and I'm so thankful they did that because A, it answers a lot of questions that we had, and B, we have these materials like fireplace mantles and doors that didn't end up in a Victorian landfill. All right, so one more pan of this room and we're going to go outside. Yeah, I'm not sure what we were looking at up there. Maybe they took the roof. I don't know. They did something weird. But anyway, so the property line ends right here. Now, after the Civil War, when they made this property into a resort area, there were resort houses built over here. I think Dakota said there were 5 of them, and apparently they were quite substantial in size. And there is a chimney over here in the woods somewhere from one of them. But like I said, the property line ends right here. And this was, oh boy, I'm going to say something wrong. I think this was the Kentucky Road. There's an indention right here in the property, and that was an old road that went up through here. But this belongs to someone else. So the property goes that way. Look at this incredible chimney. I've seen the original chimney. It was identical to this. They did a great job. My friend Benjamin Jackson, he just did a lecture in Bristol last week about finding fingerprints from enslaved people. Now, I don't know if this property had enslaved people. It was likely, but it was also a very small property, and it may have been that the family themselves built this. But however that happened, where is it? There's a fingerprint in the brick. That is, let's see, 85, 250 years. 250-year-old fingerprint, and I found 3 up here. Look at those guys, how cool. I mean, that's some pretty neat stuff. They didn't even have photographs back then. That's your only memory of somebody. There's one of your windows. Great artistic photo. And so now that the leaves have fallen, we might be able to see that chimney. No, not unless it's covered with ivy. But anyway, it's fascinating. And here's an old pond that someone built in later using this ancient rock. Oh, and speaking of ancient, so the wood in this house, those logs were so large, and it being built in 1785, you got to think about this. This was unexplored territory, okay? This was pioneer stuff. No one was coming this far that early. That means those logs in that house that I was just touching could have been a tree that was 1,000 years old. I mean, this is ancient America stuff. That's what's so cool about this property is there's layer upon layer upon layer of history here. Not only 19th century, but ancient history. Heck, who knows? There may be fossils on the property that we don't even know about. We're going to go through that gate in just a few minutes. Here's the back of the house. You can see this is where they've been demoing. They took out another dormer window up there. Redid that chimney. All this porch needs to come off. There's a story originally about a dining room that I think Dakota said could seat 100 people. a big dining room table, and it came out to about right here. I'll let him get more into that in the video, though. I don't want to say something wrong. And over here is a foundation to an old slave house. They've got some markers out here, and here's the base of the chimney. So this is pretty cool area. I love this stuff, man. If I had this property, I don't care how cold or hot it was, I would be out here digging. On my parents' property when I was growing up, their house was built in the 20s, but it was part of an old farm. And I found in our yard a penny doll from the 1850s. I discovered a privy pit on the back of our property. They had about 2 acres. And I found a bottle laying on top of the ground, and I started digging there. And I must have dug down about 5 feet, and I found all these old quart top bottles. It was so cool. I love that. So anyway, let's jump in and explore. And don't fuss on me for not wearing a seatbelt. We're driving over acreage, not a road. Super casual video. Y'all are in a day of my life. So a lockbox and a rosary. It's in my truck constantly. Okay, so let's go up here and talk about this. I can't drive over the whole property because, like I said, some of it's marshy area. So we're going to go through this gate. Helene blew over a couple of trees here. I like that little grove of trees to our right. It's very pretty. So from my understanding, where we're driving right now was the pretty large encampment from Longstreet's soldiers in the Civil War. I think Morristown has a General Longstreet museum. So apparently he took over a house close by too for some kind of headquarters. Lots of history over here. I mean, so much history. That didn't sound good on my truck. This is pretty smooth property too. This is the second time I've driven it, and it's not real bumpy or anything. There's some milkweed. Y'all, this is amazing. Neil came and took the drone shots a while ago, and it was just beautiful. It doesn't look this big when you're looking at it from the house, but when you start driving it, you realize just how much acreage there is. I mean, it says 28 acres, but it's a big 28 acres. Looks like 50 to me. I'm serious. It really looks large. This is a pretty flat area, too. You see rocks? Oh, but they're not sticking out that far, are they? Oh, okay. So yeah, look at this, how pretty. We're going into the wooded area over there. I mean, we're not going into it, but we're getting close where you can view that. And then we'll jump out here in just a minute to take a good gander at the property from the ridge. Yeah, we're going to freeze Monica out here. Let's go this way. These big, beautiful trees. Dakota said they did some metal detecting up here, and oh, there's my old tire tracks from last week. They found tons of Civil War era bullets up near that giant oak tree. And there is a story of a two not traitors, deserters being shot on the property during the Civil War. And so he thinks that maybe those bullets had something to do with that. You don't get a historic house without a little bit of creepy history. This is my favorite part of the property. Look at that big oak tree. Who knows, the Roddies may have planted that. That roaring sound, I don't think you all can hear it, is the hundreds of raspberry vines I just ran over. So let's jump out here and take a look at this. Man, this tree looks way more massive when you get out of the truck and really take a good look at that big oak tree. That is beautiful. I think that's a pin oak. I love it. And so over here, for you folks that don't live in Northeast Tennessee or Southwest Virginia, you don't know how good it feels to be able to walk through high grass and not worry about stepping on a copperhead because it's too cold. Although I've seen one copperhead kind of frozen. Not here. That was my second question. My first question to Dakota was, are there raccoons in the house? My second question was, where are the copperheads? Look at this stunning property. So we could probably drive on down into there, but I don't know how damp it might be right now. All I would need is to get my truck stuck. And so the property goes all the way in the distance there to those railroad tracks. And again, this is probably the 6 to 10 acres I was talking about. That's a little, got some marsh spots in the middle. And then down there is the house on the road. Yeah, he said we could, but it sometimes gets marshy. That's the word of the day, marshy. So, and also the address to the property, the price, all that stuff will be listed in the top of the video. So if you're watching this and you're like, well, where is it? How much is it? Just click and look up. Yeah, I could see me and Rory over in those woods looking for pine cones and tree lichen and turkey feathers and skulls. It'd be a lot of fun. Well, guys, oh look, Monica found one. Here we go. So thank you very much for taking some interest in this video, and I hope, we'll step back a little bit in case it gets blurry. I hope that you found it interesting, and this is a little more of an urban explorer video than my normal ones are. But anyway, Daniel Shue, Old House Agent, appreciate you. Check this out in the description, and we'll see you on the next video.